Good day. This is your Q&A Social Security Disability Today. My name is Attorney Anthony Reeves. I'm your host. Let's get to your questions. Will somebody please explain child support and disability benefits to me? All right, sit down, hit the pause button, go get you a soda or some water and some chocolate chip cookies, and kick back because I'm going to try to break this thing down as best as I can. I may not get it completely right, but I'm going to do the best I can. If I'm looking back and forth, it's because I got two screens in front of me, one to talk to you and one to make sure I address this thing appropriately so this way you're not upset. All right, let's go to our first point. Garnishment. Hands down, garnishment is occurred. Disability insurance benefits can be garnished and typically will be garnished for any outstanding child support obligation. Supplemental security probably is not. The reason why is SSI, what we call supplemental security income, is a need-based program. It's a welfare program. I've rarely run across anybody who's ever had benefits garnished from that because it's a welfare program. Disability insurance benefits is a little different. Under the anti-garnishment statute of the federal government, Congress said that no benefits from disability, no creditor is permitted to garnish disability insurance benefits with the exception of pretty much three areas: federal debts, alimony, or child support. So if you have a child support obligation, be advised your disability benefits may be subjected to being garnished by the federal government. Now, that's first point. Second point, family allowance is allowed for children, but not all the time. Now, all right, let's kind of break that down here for a second. If you've paid into the Social Security system and you get an insurance amount, what we call a primary insurance amount, or PIA, sometimes they allow for an additional amount of money, what we call primary insurance, family allowance, if you have children. Now, I tell people this all the time, that it does not always happen automatically. Like I've seen them where I've had people where they've gotten a primary insurance amount, but there's no additional amount calculated for children. They didn't qualify for whatever reason. So there is a possibility that you may get an additional amount of money, or that a disabled individual may get an additional amount of money for children that they are responsible for supporting, regardless of whether they have a child support obligation or not. That's the second point. Now, third point, child support, people, is a state problem, not a federal problem. Here's why I say this. Because I had one individual sent me a very interesting post telling me that I was wrong when I was telling them the family allowance was not to be used, is not intended for child support. They were saying, well, in my case, it was, and you're wrong. And this is where, but he actually kind of clarified himself and basically supported my point, and I acknowledged his at the same time. What happened was, when he was found disabled, he went to the court, he had his child support obligation modified. And what the court did is that they allowed the money that he receives in the family allowance to be utilized to satisfy his ongoing child support obligation. So if his primary insurance amount was $1,000 that he's supposed to get, and he gets an extra $300 for his kids, the $300, which typically follows the kids anyway, goes to the kids. He never sees that money because $1,000 is what he's due to receive. They get the $300 and it satisfies his child support obligation. What I tell people is, when the federal government created that allowance, they took in consideration that you may have children who may be supported by you. But it's not intended to support your child support obligation. But it can be if you go to the court and ask them to modify it, if they choose to do so. Let me tell you why I say this is a state problem. Because remember, Social Security has no knowledge of your child support obligation. They weren't there to calculate your child support guidelines. So let's say you were making $60,000, $70,000 a year, and I don't know family law, so I don't know the numbers. And let's say that your child support obligation is like, I don't know, $1,500 a month. Well, that number is not going to go away once you're found disabled unless you go to the court and ask the state court and ask them to modify your child support obligation. So guess what? That $1,500 obligation is going to stay there until you change it. The federal government is not going to ride in on a white horse and tell the state, oh, Mr. State, you need to reduce it from $1,500 to $300. That's not the way it goes down. Federal government is going to give you your additional family allowance if you're eligible to receive it. But if you want to ensure that that allowance is going to be addressed for your child support obligation, you need to go and argue that there's a material change in your circumstances and ask for that modification of your child support obligation. Okay? Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, when it comes to child support, let's going on to our fourth point. Now, we actually have fourth and fifth. You typically people fall into two categories. You have your non-custodial disabled parent, and then you have your custodial non-disabled parent. In other words, the parent who's on disability benefits but don't have the kids, and those who have the kids, and they try to get that person disability benefits. So each side has their own interests. Let's talk about each side real quick. Non-custodial parent, the non-custodial disabled parent. What do you need to know? If you're a non-custodial disabled parent, meaning you're a person who's disabled but you don't have the kids, here's what you need to know. Your DIB benefits can be garnished. If you get approved, ask Social Security if your benefits will be garnished. Okay? If you want to modify your child support obligation, you need to go to the court immediately to get it modified once you've been found to be disabled. And in some states, your family allowance may be applied to your child support, but it depends entirely on your state. So those are the things for non-custodial disabled parents. Now, for the custodial non-disabled parent, meaning if you have the child and you're not sure if you should be drawing benefits if your child should be receiving benefits based on the benefits of the disabled person, two very simple points. If you don't know if your child is eligible, contact Social Security and ask. They'll tell you. They won't hide it. You have your child's Social Security number and their information, and the non-custodial parent's information. Go in there and they'll tell you. And second thing, either they are or they're not. Meaning, sometimes you'll have people, I've had parents, and when I say either they are or not, either the custodial parent, non-custodial parent is going to have to, their benefits are going to be made available to that child, or they're not. Sometimes I get parents who get really frustrated because they're thinking, how come the non-custodial parent is getting benefits, but my child is not getting anything? Shouldn't they get something off of it? Well, if the person has SSI, there's a possibility that they may not get benefits because SSI is typically not available for child support. Two, they may be eligible to receive benefits, but those in terms of garnishment, but Social Security may not be aware of the fact that there's children. Make sure you let them know. That's why I tell people, go and ask, because this way, if you don't ask, you won't know. And hopefully, what I've shared with you will make life a little bit easier for you. If you have any additional information, because child support is always a beast, give me a holler. I'll see what I can do. As always, I'm so thankful to have you here visiting me for another edition of Q&A Social Security Disability Today. Remember, if you have any questions, make sure you keep those questions coming. And more importantly, if you're looking for representation and you want to know whether or not our firm can help, you can always visit thereevesfirm.com, fill out a free claim evaluation, and we will definitely get in contact with you. Again, this is Anthony Reeves, and this is your Q&A Social Security Disability Today.